Hello, it's Aki Anastasio, and welcome to another episode of What's Next. And in the studio today, we have Graham Parker, who's the executive chairman at Britehouse. And Graham's got an interesting story. He's got extensive experience in scaling software businesses and just businesses in general, mergers and acquisitions. He's been through many strategic level looks at businesses and organizations. And together with his background in corporate finance and his hands-on leadership in managing and growing a diverse portfolio of businesses within the Britehouse and Dimension Data Group. Welcome to you, Graham. Nice to have you with us. Have I described you properly? I mean, you've got such an interesting look. You sound to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, as you are the conductor of the orchestra, because you see things from a broader perspective and you bring the best out of everything. Is that a fair assessment? How would you assess yourself in an elevator pitch?
Yeah, I guess that's not a bad view. I'm probably more of a sort of jack of all trades and master of none. I'm an accountant by background. I keep telling everyone I spent 7 years becoming a CA and the rest of my career trying not to be a CA.
Yes.
I've worked in IT for 26, 27 years.
Yeah.
But I'm certainly not an IT professional. But in a nutshell, actually what I love is business. And I love growing business. I love interacting with people in business. And I love adding value to the businesses that I'm involved in and to the clients that we get involved in. So that's probably what
So I was trying to get that out of you because, you've had a very interesting career. And when you look at where technology is to right now, right, with the speed at which AI is moving and how it's transforming businesses, it's a completely different place to where it was when you first started. And I guess that's where leadership and the lens of a leader like yourself comes in with your experience, understanding these changes that have happened, because you've seen similar changes. But I don't think we've all quite seen what's happening in the world of AI around us at the moment. Or is that an unfair assessment to make?
No, I think AI has definitely been the biggest, quickest change, if you like.
Yeah.
But I think one must always go back to fundamentals and not get caught up in the hype of the technology. So to me, one of the benefits I've always had is that because I'm not a technologist, I don't like technology for the sake of technology. I like technology for what it can do for people and for businesses. And so whenever in Britehouse, which is obviously my focus, is I've got to make sure that we properly utilize AI so that we don't get disintermediated, and that we properly leverage AI for our clients, but not the hype thereof.
Okay.
The practical uses thereof.
You see, that's why I said you're the conductor of the orchestra, because AI is probably another symphony that you're going to play with your orchestra. But anyway, coming back to Britehouse, because you guys have been around for a long time. I've done some work with you. It's such a fascinating organization. If you had to meet someone for the first time and you had to describe what Britehouse does, how would you describe Britehouse? Who's your typical customer and what do you guys do?
Okay, so the Britehouse of today is a software engineering business, which basically means we build software. Our roots are firmly in the industrial world of information technology, so IT and OT, operational technology.
Yes.
We actually grew up, as you've mentioned, in the old Dimension Data Britehouse world, where Britehouse was actually essentially at its core a big SAP player. And we were the little kids on the block that played around that core, hairy ERP system of SAP.
Yes.
We integrated SAP with other systems, and we actually built a whole lot of, we filled the gaps that SAP didn't fill itself. We built systems of engagement so users of SAP could better engage with it. And we built other systems that SAP didn't do and other systems didn't do.
Okay.
So basically, we've got a strong set of enterprise application development, integration, and modernization skills. And in addition, over the years, we've built solutions that essentially talk to niche verticals, things like field services, preventative maintenance, merchandising type solutions, which where we saw gaps in the market that those big core hairy systems did not do.
Okay. All right. That's a great assessment, and it sounds like you really understand your customer, what their needs are. I'm glad we touched on AI in the beginning, and I want to come back to AI because it's this. You described it as this this hype at the moment, because it is a bit of a hype, and some organizations are really getting their AI strategy completely wrong. This is where you guys come in. When you look at AI and how it's overwhelming businesses, because it is, there's this knee-jerk reaction. People are spending exorbitant amounts of money on AI, and sometimes unnecessarily. How do you as an organization at Britehouse identify where the hype is and say to the businesses that you're helping, identify the solutions that actually matter and will make a difference? How do you do it?
Okay, so firstly, just from where we come, it's important to know that we're not management consultants. We come at it probably more bottom up. We're a bunch of technologists who build solutions and manage solutions on the floor.
Okay.
With that in mind, we've essentially see AI in two buckets in our little world.
Yeah.
So, and the two buckets are, on the one side, AI that can assist businesses run and manage themselves better.
Okay.
You think personal assistants, agentifying building agents that can automate mundane tasks. That's the basic. Just run a business better, more efficiently, more effectively. Management are more in control of their diary, etc., etc.
Right.
That's sort of bucket one. Bucket two talks to the actual solutions and systems that run and govern the elements of production in a business. So think about the drill rigs in a mine.
Yes.
The machines in a factory, the merchandisers in a retail execution world. There are a whole lot of niche systems there that control and manage those elements.
Right.
And AI can significantly enhance their effectiveness, the analysis of the data that comes out of those systems, and therefore do things like prevent breakdowns, make your merchandisers more effective in the field because they're getting real-time feedback from what's actually happening.
And I'm glad you mentioned data, because data is key here, right? And we're literally drowning in data. It's extraordinary the amounts of data that we create every day, but many organizations don't have the right data. It's not clean enough to be used in a correct way, the way you've just described at the moment. And this is where Britehouse comes in, because you help those companies take that data and put it and change it into data that's going to generate real, tangible insights that are going to assist your business. So without what you just described, without data, you can't do any of that sort of thing. So data is a critical part of this entire thing.
So there's no doubt that in order for AI to be effective, it needs access to relevant data that's organized fairly well and that's governed fairly well. And certainly as an organization, you certainly don't want to let AI loose on a bunch on your data in an ungoverned manner. That's very dangerous. What we have seen, though, or certainly what I've seen in the market in the last 10 years, is a move away from huge, big data organization projects because 10 years ago, systems needed very, very well organized data in specific data pools so those systems could operate properly. AI is actually much better at using disorganized, within reason, but disorganized data.
Okay.
So there's certainly an element of organizing your data better, but you don't need to spend a month of Sundays and millions of rands or dollars organizing it for AI to become effective. So it's got to be organized to a certain degree, but thereafter AI is actually quite good at leveraging it.
And that's where the intelligence comes in, right?
Yeah.
Because the AI knows what data to look for to deliver the results that you're talking about.
Yes, that's right. It can use its own. It synthesizes the data a whole lot better than previous systems.
Isn't it amazing, all the buzzwords that have come in the past? As you were talking about data, I think back to data lakes.
Exactly.
People used to love using that
Absolutely.
word. The data lakes of tomorrow, But the reality is that a lot of organizations are struggling, Graham. They're struggling with legacy systems. Legacy systems, some of them that work pretty well, and they're questioning why we should be spending all this money to upgrade to the next greatest best thing if we've got something that works and is running perfectly. But yet the modernization part of running a business is equally important. How does Britehouse fit into this picture where you help them with their modernization, but at the same time, you help upgrade their systems and keep the lights running, because you don't want to have any downtime. You want to keep running, but that's where your speciality is. You understand where you need to modernize, but the transition is seamless.
I guess our view is always to try and take, I guess, given the accountant in me, the practical, pragmatic view.
Yes.
Not the technology theoretically perfect view. And basically, I guess how that translates is understanding a client's environment, and that's, again, doesn't take too long. Is it basically good enough to do what it does?
Right.
And then if the answer to that is yes, we can very quickly get into utilizing those existing systems and existing business rules and data flows, maybe enhancing a little bit, so organizing the data a little better, integrating some of the systems a little better, but very quickly getting into a place whereby we can leverage new age technology such as AI to put those systems and give the users, put them on steroids so that they actually get great benefit.
Yeah.
I mean, the other side of AI that we found to be hugely, I guess, beneficial to us actually as practitioners in the space, and that AI helps us significantly analyze those systems. So we're working with a property company at the moment. It's one of the, I think it's third or fourth biggest in the country. It manages big estates, big property management system, a legacy system that's been around for 20, 30 years. And they're worried that this is obviously out of date. It does what it needs to do. AI enabled us to very quickly look into it, understand its business rules, its touch points, its data flows. We could then very easily go back to management and say, which of these are still relevant? Because these things are built up over years.
Yeah.
Current management essentially say, well, half of them are actually not relevant anymore. The touch points into systems A, B, and C are not relevant anymore.
Yeah.
And so we can make a very, quite a quick decision as to whether that system needs to be changed out. And if it does get changed out, you can actually change elements of it quite easily. You can build a little module that does the authentication of the users and add it on, and as you go, and then you only, as I say, have to fix half of the system because the other half is not relevant anymore. And the other part where AI has helped us significantly is that build of those modules is we estimate between 50 and 70%. It'll take us 50 to 70% less time to do those builds than it would have, say, 5 or 6 years ago.
That's interesting.
What we have to be very careful with, though, is that the fundamental elements of software development and SDLC, software development lifecycle, and those disciplines need to remain, which means that you can't just throw the problem at AI and tell it to solve and absolve yourself of responsibility.
Okay.
It needs to be properly governed, properly managed, the software and the code properly housed, etc.
You know, I quite like the approach that you've described and the approach that Britehouse takes in general, how it approaches things. It's a very pragmatic, real, honest look at what the business is. And, you know, the reality is that there are many businesses, the one you just described right now, that are running on old legacy systems. People know that there will come a time where we need to upgrade and modernize our infrastructure. Where does one start with that process? How do you help me as a business when I come to you and I say, Graham, you're the executive chairman of Britehouse. I want you and your team to help me modernize my company's infrastructure. Take me on the journey. How can you help me?
Okay, so we probably start with trying to understand what's key for your business. So which are the key systems and what are key for your clients?
Right.
And we do a very basic view of that, of those systems, the infrastructure and the software that sits on top of it. And very quickly, we can then figure out whether that's still fit for purpose or not. Broadly, they'll still be fit for purpose. And then fairly quickly, we can also start figuring out how we can augment those with new age technology such as AI so that you get better insights from the existing data, become more efficient and effective as a result. So, and it's very modular so that we're certainly not ripping and replacing.
Yes.
We're building a remediation roadmap, if you like.
Mm-hmm.
It's little bits at a time. It's showing value at a time. It's a jargon, but lean, agile in nature.
Yeah.
So that's the way we build software now. You get shown what we're building every week. We do stand-ups with the client. The client's part of the process, part of the journey. It's not 6 months of scoping to within an inch of each of our lives and then building to that spec over the next 6 months. And it's very much iterative and closed and very quick feedback loops.
Yeah. And I heard the accountant in you come out there a second ago when you started talking about value, because all of the stuff you're talking about is very quantifiable, isn't it? Because, it does cost a lot of money, but in the long run, you can see the value it's going to extract. It's going to make the company better. It's going to make the company more profitable. And it's also going to help the company unlock future business along the line. And I think it's important to look at it from that lens, from the quantifiable lens, from the accountant lens, because ultimately you want to spend the money, but you want a return on your investment.
And quite honestly, me as a service provider, I know, and I've been involved in disastrous fixed-term, long-term contracts with clients whereby that wasn't properly articulated upfront, actually the value that the client would get. And they are disastrous for both businesses. We very much on where is the value, and we'll engage in short loops to get there. In some instances, the clients after a month or 2 or 3 says, you know what, this isn't going exactly where we thought it would go. Let's put a pin in that.
Yeah.
And try this. And it's a much healthier relationship.
100%. And it's honest,
Yeah.
So the truth is that there are many companies like Britehouse. You obviously have an amazing track record up to now. You've been in business for a few decades already. How long has Britehouse been around for?
2005.
2005. So
yeah,
it's
so
like
21
it's
years.
your 21st birthday this year.
Something like
Something
that.
like that.
No, I'm waiting for the birthday present.
You'll get one. You'll get one. But I mean, 21 years in the technology business is a long time. It talks a lot about your company, what it offers, and how you deal with the client. So why should companies go with Britehouse? Why Britehouse? What is the difference with Britehouse?
We're a mix of having the scars on your back, which is very important, I think.
Yes.
We're not scared to roll up our sleeves. So we are the ones who actually leave Sandton and go up to Kathu in the Northern Cape, and we go up to the mines up north, and we go to the industries on the West Rand and the East Rand. We're not sticking to the banks in Sandton.
Yes.
We're not scared to get our hands dirty, and we're very practical. But we understand technology from a practical point of view, not theoretical PowerPoint.
Okay. So when you mentioned the Northern Cape and Kathu, I immediately thought of Hotazel. And that is one place you guys, because I've been there, so I know that region pretty well. And that's where the real, rolling up your sleeves work comes in, and you've got to go where the action is. And that's where your customers are. There's mines out there. There's operational businesses that need the modernization and the technology to operate efficiently. So it's great that you've got these diverse working environments as opposed to the suit and jacket vibe of Sandton.
I find it very invigorating. We were actually in hot as hell a week after the floods of 2 months ago.
Yes,
and we got we had to forge a river in my in my vehicle, which luckily it managed to do. On the way back, we weren't so lucky, and we had to spend an extra night going all the way down in the Free State and going all the way around. So we do all of that, But it's exciting. It's good fun.
No, it's good fun, and you get to see interesting parts of the country. But wow, flooding and hot as hell don't go together, do they? I mean, it's close to Pofadder as well. That's that whole region.
Absolutely. Obviously, the water doesn't drain so well up there because when it rains, it rains,
it does.
and the water obviously sticks around.
Yeah. So listen, we're talking everything but IT, but I want to touch on something that I found quite interesting. That I love cycling, and I love the Tour de France. And I see that you guys are working with Pinarello Q36.5. I don't know what that code is exactly. I'm not that much of I'm more of an off-road kind of guy. But the Tour de France is coming up, and it's really, it's one of my favorite events. And I just love cycling, all of these kind of tours. So tell us about this. What work exactly are you doing with Pinarello, and where does Tour de France come in?
Yeah, so I mean, we were very fortunate in Dimension Data days. If you recall, Dimension Data was a big sponsor of firstly a team and then the tour itself.
I went twice to the Tour de France.
Absolutely, as did I. Was very fortunate to do that also. I'm a cyclist myself, and I love cycling, and I have the passion. And so we got to understand, and we actually did the back end for the Tour de France website.
That's
so,
right.
So our
yes.
business, what is called Race Center, it actually fed information to the public and to the broadcasters to know exactly what was going on in the peloton, estimated arrival times, the gaps between the leaders and the peloton, and blah, 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 and the power and all of that stuff. Dimension Data entity then pulled out from that sponsorship a few years ago, and so we stopped doing that work. But obviously we kept those relationships. And about a year ago, I actually bumped into Doug Ryder, who is one of the sort of the doyens of South African cycling. Yep. He, along with some other ex-South Africans, wealthy ex-South Africans, have built a pro tour, or it's not a pro tour team, it's called a Conti team, so it's a tier 2 team called Pinarello Q36.5. Those are the two sponsors.
Okay.
And that business, they're big businesses, 100-odd people, runs a pro cycling team, 30-odd people, top tier, as I say, in Europe. And he knows, Doug, actually coming from a Microsoft background, understands the value of technology.
Yes.
And Doug and I got chatting. It was actually, I think it was in Plet in December. Said, I really need someone to help me.
As one does. In
exactly, there's value there. And we started chatting around. He was saying, I need to make this business better with technology. On any given day, they've got somewhere between 30 and 40 flights around Europe and the rest of the world, delivering riders, soigneurs, supporters, bikes to different races. So there's a huge logistical element there.
Don't forget the domiciles.
And the exact domestiques.
The domestiques.
The domestiques, exactly. So there's obviously huge administrative and organizational issues, and that can be effectively addressed through AI tools. But then there's also the rider performance. So the one thing Doug said to me is he knows in his gut that one rider is going to be better in April than another one in October, and generally those patterns play out. But it's anecdotal evidence.
Yes.
So that's a very simple example. So we're going to bring AI, and we're in process of bringing AI to bear on the rider performance. What makes them perform? When will they perform better? Is it the nutrition? Isn't the training program? And then finally, we actually want to give each rider a little AI agent which manages them, their nutrition, their training program, where they're going, what they're doing, where they should be sleeping, how much they should be, etc.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And, it just comes back to what we started talking about, because everything is going to be embedded with AI going forward. Literally everything, and every single business. You don't have to be an enormous, giant business to use AI. AI is going to be everywhere. It's going to become ubiquitous as electricity is. So when you look at your organization at Britehouse, and you look at the transitions that you've seen over the last 21 years, going into the next 5 years is going to be quite interesting, because we're going to see a lot more, I wouldn't say a lot more turbulence, but there are going to be changes, and AI is going to be dominant. You mentioned agentic AI earlier. Where do you see your business in 5 years?
Firstly, we've got to make sure that we're not disintermediated by AI, number one. And number two, we leverage AI properly for our own day-to-day work.
Yes.
And secondly, so that we understand what AI can do for our customers. I think software engineering will actually become more and more relevant, especially in the industrial world, and responsible software engineering. Maybe if you're building a website, you can just ask an AI agent to spin your website up and all the rest of it, and you won't need a software engineering business to do that.
Yeah.
But industrial grade software to run core systems will require a mix of people like ourselves and AI. And that's where I see us. So
Yes.
we will be in tandem with the AI models and AI partners, helping businesses continue to be better.
That's fantastic, because I'm glad you said that, because at the end of the day, AI is only as good as a human element. We can't let AI dictate to us what to do. It has to be driven by the human.
Yeah.
You can't rely on AI to write code, because, as you said, you don't know what it's going to write, but you've got to have a human to be able to do the reasoning and the judgment, etc., to be able to really deliver great results.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. So, and I mean, the human element, everyone talks about, I guess, the risk of AI disintermediating a whole lot of jobs and all the rest of it. We have not seen that. All the conversations we have with our clients is if we look at places where we can identify AI, so put agents in to do mundane tasks, it's not around what people we can take out of the system. It's what we can do with those people now that they don't have to do the mundane stuff for half of the day.
Yes,
Very much those conversations,
absolutely.
which
brilliant.
is so, that's obviously, I think, very positive. I mean, the other side is obviously in the industrial world, there's a whole lot of tactical, practical stuff that has to happen at the coalface, as I say, which is not going to go away. You're still going to need people doing a lot of the heavy lifting tasks.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
can just do it better.
Graham Parker, Executive Chairman at Britehouse. It's been an absolute pleasure engaging with you, and thank you for sharing those insights. And I loved the way you thought about AI and the analogies that you used. Thank you very much, and congratulations on Brithehouse's 21st birthday. Blow out
Thank
those
you.
candles, and we hope to have you back in the studio soon.
Thank you, Aki. It's been fun.
Thank you. There you go. That's Graham Parker, Executive Chairman at Britehouse, sharing their story and the importance of looking at your business from all the different aspects, whether you're using legacy systems, whether you want to implement AI. Never forget about the human element and make sure that the data is all right. But at the end of the day, these things that we've been talking about, the technologies, the modernization, they are critical components of every single business in the world today. Taking your business to the next level, make sure that you do it right.